Hello everyone and welcome back to our CA Final Indirect Taxes batch SAFAL. Last lecture we had completed all the important terms and today we are to begin with the very first chapter of the syllabus, that is supply under GST. But before starting, we'll just quickly revise everything that we completed yesterday and then we shall proceed further. Chalo. There was this diagram that I drew, let's say a supplier supplied some goods or services to a recipient. The recipient paid consideration for it. Did we understand the meaning or the definition of every single word that we have used here? Yes, ma'am. Let us start with supplier. Who is a supplier? The person who is supplying the goods or services. The person who is supplying the goods or services, including agent acting on behalf of supplier, is known as supplier. This is the main definition, plus they've added one extra part to it which simply says that wherever there is any online game or any specified actionable claim happening, the person who is organizing or arranging everything, who is receiving money's worth or virtual digital asset, will also be known as supplier, and he will also have to fulfill all the obligations that a normal supplier does under GST. Right, ma'am. Who is a recipient? Wherever consideration is payable, the person liable to pay the consideration will become recipient. If consideration is not payable, in that case whoever receives the goods or enjoys the services becomes the recipient. And the definition of recipient will also include agent acting on behalf of recipient. Right, ma'am. Goods. Goods means, good means other than but includes. Goods means other than but includes. So goods means, chalo, we'll just write and do. Goods means every kind of movable property. Chalo, everyone along with me in the comment section. People watching in recorded mode will scribble on the rough sheet. Chalo, goods means every kind of movable property. Other than what? Money and security. Goods means every kind of movable property other than money and security, but includes what? It includes actionable claims or growing crops, grass, anything that is attached to a forming part of land, but which is agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. Everything will be considered as goods. Okay, ma'am. Then what about services? Again, the format remains the same. Service means other than but includes. Service means anything. Simple definition, service means anything. Other than what? Other than, everyone tell me. Other than what? Other than goods, money and security. Means if something particularly falls in the definition of goods, it will be considered as goods. Then money and security are excluded from both of the definitions, which means money and security are neither goods nor services. Right. But includes what? We will say but includes anything that is use of money. Use of money, which simply means conversion from one form currency denomination to another form currency denomination for which a separate consideration is charged. It will be known as service. Right. So we understood what is supplier, recipient, goods and service. Then talking about consideration. Consideration is simply any monetary value or money or anything in the form of money other than money that you are paying for certain goods or services. It can be paid by recipient or can be paid by some other person on behalf of recipient. It also includes the monetary value to forbear something or to do something. Everything is consideration only. Any subsidy received from central government or state government will not be considered as consideration, and any deposit will also not be considered as consideration. But if the deposit is applied for certain goods or services, then it becomes payment, then it becomes consideration. Right, ma'am. We also studied related person. Who are related person under GST? Chalo, tell me everyone. Who are related person under GST? Ma'am, SOFA corps. SOFA corps are the only related person under GST. What do we understand by the term SOFA corps? So means sole agent. So means sole agent. Fa means family. Sole agent or sole distributor, whatever you say. Family. Now, who are family under GST? Ma'am, spouse and children will always be family. Parents, grandparents, brother and sister. Only if dependent, then they will be considered as family, otherwise not. Okay. C simply means relationship of control, which also includes two person controlled by a common person. O means officer or director in business. P means legally recognized partners. E employer-employee relationship, and S simply means holding of shares greater than equal to 25%, and this will also include one common person holding share in two people, then these two people also become related person. Right, ma'am. What about distinct person? Distinct person simply means same PAN, separate registration. Whenever I say distinct person, you have to shout out loud what? Ma'am, same PAN, separate registration. They might be in same state, they might be in different state. The only criteria is same PAN, separate registration. They will be known as distinct person. Chalo. Are you able to recollect everything that we completed till last lecture? Quickly tell me, give me a thumbs up, then we shall proceed further. It takes us only 5 to 10 minutes to revise everything that we complete in a 2 to 2.5 hour session. Done, ma'am, with you. Chalo. Then now let us start with supply under GST. What is supply? Supply is a one comprehensive taxable event under GST. Only and only if supply happens, then only GST can apply. If there is no supply, GST can never apply. Okay, ma'am. Chalo. Now, unless otherwise mentioned, whatever act we are studying will be always of CGST Act, right? Whichever section that we are studying will always be compulsorily of CGST Act unless I otherwise mention. There are some 7-8 sections of IGST Act that are also in the syllabus, but that I will tell you particularly that this is IGST Act. Otherwise than that, always we study CGST Act. Starting with the first section of CGST, that is S for 7, S for supply. S से 7, S से supply. Chalo everyone with me. S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. How will you remember this? S for 7, S for supply, S से 7, S से supply, section 7, scope of supply. Section 7(1) simply says supply includes. Means this section will explain us that what all is supply, what all is not supply, and based on that only we can proceed further in GST, because we know something has to be supply, only then GST can apply. So section 7 subsection 1 simply talks about supply includes. What all is included in supply? Now to simplify this, we break it in two parts. We say for consideration and we say without consideration. For consideration and without consideration. See, there is a golden rule. No consideration, no supply. Means for any transaction to qualify as supply, there always has to be a consideration. Ma'am, what is consideration? We've already discussed that in important terms part of the syllabus. That consideration simply means paying something, money or any other thing in form of money for whatever goods services you are receiving, that is consideration. So we normally say that golden rule simply says no consideration, no supply. For a transaction to qualify as supply, there has to be consideration. But there are 4 activities particularly. There is a schedule 1 under section 7(1)(c), where government has specified only 4 activities. Bus, only these 4 activities will be considered as supply even if they are happening without consideration. Only and only 4 supplies. Other than this, every single transaction will have to involve consideration. Then only it will be treated as supply. Ma'am, what are these 4 activities that we will discuss later on? First, we will understand the normal provisions. That if a transaction is happening for consideration, prerequisite, if no consideration, no supply. Means you have to fix this thing in mind that consideration is there. For everything that we will discuss for next 10 minutes, consideration is there. That you have to fix in your mind compulsorily. Now we talk about section 7(1)(a). We are studying section 7 scope of supply, where particularly section 7 subsection 1 talks about what is included in supply. Now clause A, section 7 subsection 1 clause A simply says that all forms of supply. All forms of supply, supply of what? Goods, services or both. Of course, transaction has to qualify as a supply transaction, but supply of what? Supply of goods, services or both. Very simple. So we say all forms of supply of goods, services or both, including like such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, etc. means everything comes under a single umbrella term named as supply. So they say that whatever you are doing for consideration, be it any form of supply of goods, services or both. What could be the possible forms of supply of goods, services or both? Sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, everything is supply only. Made or agreed to be made by a person. Made or agreed to be made by a person. Who is a person under GST? We also studied definition of a person, that not only an individual is considered as person. Individual, company, firm, LLP, AOP, BOI, trust, cooperative society, normal society, government authority, everything is person only. So we say that all forms of supply. Supply of what? Supply of goods, services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, everything made or agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business will be treated as supply. What is section 7(1)(a)? Section 7(1)(a) says that if for consideration done, then all forms of supply of what? Goods, services or both, such as what? Sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, made or agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business will be treated as supply. Do we already know what is business? Yes, ma'am. Do we know who is a person? Yes, ma'am. Do we know what are goods, services and both? Yes, ma'am. Do we know what is a consideration? Yes, ma'am. Now do you understand why we studied all the important terms first and then we move on to the chapter, because now every single term that I use, you already are very much clear about that terms and you already know the definition of all the terms that I am using. Tell me, is this point absolutely clear to you? I will ask you two questions. You have to tell me whether it is supply or not. Question number 1. I was in extreme need of money, therefore I decided to sell my diamond earrings. I went at a jewelry store and I sold my diamond earrings, let's say for 2 lakh rupees. Is this a supply? Say yes or no. I sold my personal diamond earrings. Is this a supply? Say yes or no. Question number 2. I run a small home bakery, a cake shop, and I sold 2 cakes to, let's say, Riddhi. It was Riddhi's birthday. She purchased 2 small cakes from me. I sold her these cakes. Which is supply out of 2, or both are supply or both are not supply? Ma'am, question number 1 is not a supply. Why not a supply, guys? You all are saying no, ma'am, question 1 is not a supply. Why? See, first of all, I sold my earrings for 2 lakh. Means, is there a consideration? Yes, ma'am. 2 lakh is the consideration. So, consideration condition satisfied. Okay. Is sales a form of supply? Yes, ma'am. Are diamond earrings goods? Yes, ma'am, they are goods. It is a sale. Am I a person? Individual is also a person. Yes, ma'am. But is it in course furtherance of business? The answer is no, ma'am. We have to satisfy all the criteria. Very good. It is consideration. It is agreed to be made by a person, it is goods, services or both, falling in the definition of supply, but still because it is not for business purpose, we cannot consider it as supply. Whereas in the second case, it is my business to sell cakes. Now again tell me, let's say I sold 1 cake for 800 rupees, I charged a total of 1600 for this cake, means there is consideration. Is cake a goods? Yes, ma'am. Is there a supply? Yes, ma'am. Made agreed to be made by a person? Yes, and also in course furtherance of business. Okay. Riddhi came to me and said, ma'am, you will charge money from me. What are you doing, ma'am? It's my birthday and you cook such delicious cake. Please give it for free to me. I said, okay. How can I tell my student no? So point number 3, where I gave a cake free of cost to Nidhi. Free of cost to Riddhi. Chalo. It is my business. Now tell me, will it be considered as a supply? No, ma'am, because golden rule simply says no consideration, no supply. We simply know this much, that there are 4 activities that will be considered as supply without consideration, but we are not aware of the 4 activities till now. So as of now, whatever we have studied, we simply know that if it is not for consideration, then there's no need to check any other thing. Now, if you see other things, you can say that yes, it is a form of supply. We have transferred the cake. I am a person. It is my business working with the cakes. But since there is no consideration, I cannot treat it as supply. Understood how to see all the conditions together concurrently. Okay, this was about section 7.1a. Now moving on to section 7.1b. Section 7.1b says import of service. Section 7.1b says import of service for business purpose or personal purpose. Both are covered here, which means if I am importing a service for consideration, the purpose doesn't matter. It could be personal purpose, it could be business purpose, it will always be treated as supply. The only condition is there should be consideration and there should be import of service. If import of service is with consideration, you will not check the purpose, be it personal, be it business, it will always be treated as supply only. Make sure you are very clear about this thing. It is import of service and not import of goods. Can anyone tell me why? Why we have only considered import of service here and not import of goods? Because ma'am, all the import and export of goods are dealt with Customs Act. We have an act named Customs Act which particularly deals with the provisions related to import and export of goods. Therefore, import and export of goods particularly fall under the purview of Customs Act. We need to respect that. Therefore, we are not making provisions with respect to import of goods here. Whereas import of services are dealt with GST and customs is not applicable on services. Therefore, we have provisions relating only and only to import of services. Very good Venkatesh, very good Siddhi. Chalo. Now, answer me two things. Okay. If GST, listen to me carefully, है ना? If I say on a particular transaction GST is applicable, let's say transaction A, I am saying GST is applicable on this. Is it mandatory that this has to be a supply? If I say that on this transaction GST is applicable, do you automatically inference out of it that ma'am it will be a supply? We are sure, no need to check. Question number 2. If I say transaction B qualifies as a supply, can you automatically conclude that GST will be applicable on this? Are you getting my question? Are all supplies liable to GST? Question number 1. Or everything that is liable to GST will automatically be supply? Question number 2. Chalo, answer both 1 and 2. Ma'am, point number 1 we say yes. If you are saying that GST is applicable on something, then yes, we are 100% sure it has to be a supply. Why? Because supply is comprehensive taxable event under GST. Whereas question number 2 that you are saying that everything that is a supply, GST will be applicable, the answer is no. So students have a doubt here that ma'am, even if we are importing for personal purpose, we have seen in real life that GST is not applicable. Then why you are saying it is a supply? Babu, I am saying it is a supply. I did not say GST is applicable. Now there are a lot of cases where things could qualify as a supply, but still GST will not be applicable. Why? Because government has issued particular exemptions with respect to them. Let's say today if I sell milk, GST is not applicable, but is selling milk qualifying under supply? Yes, because milk is a movable property, it is goods, and if I am transferring goods to someone, I am selling goods to someone, it particularly falls under the definition of supply. But still government has issued exemptions with respect to it that okay, we don't want to apply GST on milk, and therefore GST is not applicable on sale of milk. So similarly, it is possible that import of services for personal purpose might not attract GST because of particular exemption given to them. However, are they supplies? Yes, ma'am. Is this point clear to all of us? What I just now explained. Done. Chalo. Then section 7.1AA. Section 7.1AA says that any person other than individual, meaning it could be association of person, body of individuals, or a firm, or a club, or an association, anything which is not an individual, doing transactions or activities with their own members or constituents. Let's say we have Rotary Club. You all have heard about Rotary Club? Yes, ma'am. So let's say we have Rotary Club and Rotary Club has its own members. Now the club does a lot of activities for members. In return to it, the member pays some kind of a fees to become part of this association or part of this club. Now here we are simply saying that if there is any body which is not an individual, let's say it is a club, association, firm, corporation, anything like that. If it is taking some kind of a consideration, cash, deferred payment, anything from its own members or from its own constituents, then also it would qualify to be a supply. Why, ma'am? Because government issued a clarification explaining that a club is separate from its member, a firm is separate from its partners, a society is separate from all its constituents, which simply means that even if this person other than individual, let's say a club, is doing some kind of activity or transaction for its own members, against which it is charging some kind of a fees, consideration, cash, deferred payment, anything from its members, then it will also become supply and GST becomes applicable on the same. Say yes or no. We will first finish off this part from the notes and then we move on to second part of supply includes, which are the 4 activities, the 4 particular activities which qualify as supply even without consideration. Chalo. First of all, we start with S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. 7.1 says supply includes, talking about for a consideration, all forms of supply. Supply of what? Goods, services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, everything made or agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business will be treated as supply. Tell me, are you able to remember things along with me? I am going very slow and we are understanding meaning of every single term. We will also understand meaning of sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, everything. Just wait for 5 minutes. Okay, ma'am. So, if for a consideration, then all forms of supply, supply of what? Goods, services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal. Underline the word person and underline the word business. Done, ma'am. Then section 7.1b simply says that if for a consideration any service is imported, then be it business purpose, be it personal purpose, will always be treated as supply. And then section 7.1AA simply says that a person who is not an individual doing any kind of activity or transaction with its own members or constituents only for cash, deferred payment or valuable consideration, whatever it is, it will also be treated as supply. Explanation simply says that the person and its constituents are treated as a separate people, which simply makes us understand that there are 2 separate persons. The club is a person and its member is a person, and these 2 different persons, separate person, are undertaking a transaction for consideration, then of course it would qualify to be a supply. Right, ma'am. Ma'am, what do we mean by the term sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license? Let us understand one by one. Chalo, sale simply means you are transferring the entire ownership, you are transferring the entire title of any goods services from one person to another. It becomes a sale. Let's say this pen belongs to me. Jaswant Nimani came to me and he said that, ma'am, please give me this pen. I said, okay, I am selling you this pen for 5,000. You give me 5,000, I give you this pen. Now this pen clearly and wholly belongs to you. You can do whatever you want to do with this pen. You can throw this pen, play pen fight with it, you can write with this pen, you can gift this to someone. Means now you are the whole and sole person responsible to do whatever you want to do with this pen. This means I have now sold you this pen. So transfer of ownership of a title of property from one person to another person for a price is simply known as sale. A shopkeeper selling a pen rupees 20,000 to the buyer. Now this is a sale transaction. After sale, seller has no right and all the rights to deal with that property now goes to the recipient. Okay, ma'am. Then what about transfer? Transfer simply means you said, ma'am, I want to use this pen. I want to see how it works on iPad. I said, okay, you give me 500 rupees. You keep this pen for 5 days. You can use and whatever you want to do and then return the pen to me again. So in this case, I have only given you possession or control. I have only given you the rights to use this pen and not the right to the entire pen. Means now you cannot throw it, you cannot give it to someone. You are liable to again give this pen back to me, or you are liable to at least treat the pen the way I want it to be, because you are not the owner. You don't have all the rights. You are just having possession or control. Let's say a company transferring goods from factory to depot for the purpose of sale. Sale has not yet taken place. I have simply transferred goods from my own factory to my own depot to my own shop. Means I am transferring the goods. I am not selling the goods. Okay. Can anyone explain me the difference between barter and exchange? Chalo. Sale transfer done. Do you know meaning of barter and exchange? Ma'am, barter, we've heard that rice for wheat, clothes for wheat. It was all barter that we had studied in school. Then what about exchange? And what is the difference between barter and exchange? Anyone? Shubham, it falls in the definition of business only. Open the definition of business. It particularly says that if you're charging any fees as a club or as an association, it becomes business. Chalo. No idea, ma'am. Listen. Barter simply means goods or services in exchange of pure goods or services. There is no money involved. There is no money involved. Goods services for goods services is known as barter, which means, ma'am, rice for wheat, or let's say I am giving you teaching services. I am giving you teaching services. Now I was looking for new earphones. I was looking for new earphones, and you, let's say, have a business of earphones, and you're also studying CA simultaneously. You said, ma'am, I will give you a new pair of earphones. You give me lectures. We did not exchange any money. It is a goods for goods, or service for service, or service for goods, or goods for service. It is purely known as barter. Let's say a doctor providing medical consultancy to a barber for haircut in return. Whereas exchange would simply say that there is money involved at some leg along with goods or services. It is not pure money also, and it is not pure goods or services also. Then it becomes exchange. Let's say I said the fees of my lecture is 6,000. And you said, then ma'am, the earphones are, let's say, worth 10,000. I said, okay, no problem. You gave me earphones, I gave you lectures, and plus I also gave you 4,000 rupees. This will qualify as an exchange. It is not pure barter also, and it is not pure sale also. Tell me. Very good, guys. Chalo. So exchange simply means good services plus money for good services, or good services plus money. Then it is known as exchange. Money can be on one leg, money can be on both legs also, but it is not pure money, and it is not pure good services also. It's a mixture of both. Then it becomes exchange. So a new car worth 10 lakh sold in exchange of 7 lakh and an old car. This will qualify as exchange. Okay, ma'am. What about license? License simply means paying money to get some kind of a permission or some kind of authority. That is obtaining license. So permission granted by a competent authority to engage in a business, occupation or activity. Let's say I wanted to deal with some kind of a particular chemical, where I have to take permission of the regulatory body. Only then I can use that chemical. So of course, to get that license, you will have to pay some kind of a fees. Again becomes a transaction in course furtherance of business and qualifies as a supply. And rental and lease, we all of course understand, everyone. Giving a property or something on rent or lease or disposal simply means to part ways with any kind of goods, means disposal. Let's say I'm selling something for scrap. It is a kind of disposal. Right, ma'am. So now we understand every single word used in section 7(1)(a). All forms of supply, goods, services both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, made, agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business, qualifies as supply. 7(1)(b), import of service. You can write goods here and strike it off, and why? Because dealt in customs. For your understanding, if you want, you can add this in notes. So import of service, if for consideration, be it business, be it personal, always supply. And activity transaction by a person other than individual to its own member constituent for cash, deferred payment or valuable consideration becomes a supply. Why? Because person is a separate entity and the members constituents are separate persons under GST. Say yes or no, everyone. Is this absolutely clear? Then we move on to section 7(1)(c), without consideration part. The with consideration part is over, and the golden rule always says no consideration, no supply. There are only and only 4 paras given under schedule 1 which qualify as supply without consideration. Other than that, everything has to be for consideration. Then only it can be supply. Ma'am, please explain the meaning of transfer once again. Transfer simply means to give possession or to give control. I'm not giving you the entire ownership. Okay, let's say if you today go in market and purchase this Apple pen, it comes for 11,000 rupees. You had a very small assignment where you wanted this pen for only 3 to 4 days. You wanted to use this pen, see how it works, that is all. Now you thought purchasing entire pen would be waste. Why to spend 11,000? You came to me that, ma'am, I heard you are not having lectures this Saturday, Sunday. Can you please give this pen to me for 2 days, Saturday, Sunday? I said, okay, I will charge 400 rupees from you. You can keep this pen for Saturday, Sunday and return it back to me on Monday. Now in this case, have I transferred the entire ownership of pen to you? No. I have just given you possession of this pen for 2 days. I have only given you the right to use this pen. I have only given you control of this pen for 2 days. Then this is not a sale, but this will qualify to be a transfer. Rajshri, is it clear now? Not giving you the entire rights but only giving you the possession or control means transfer. Done. Give me a thumbs up so that I can proceed further. Right, ma'am. Chalo. Now moving on to section 7(1)(c), which is that without consideration also there can be activities which we can consider as supply. Activities specified in schedule 1. Section 7(1)(c), activities specified in schedule 1. 4 activities. Activity number 1 says, permanent transfer or disposal of business asset on which ITC had been availed when you purchased it. Permanent transfer of business asset on which ITC is availed. Ma'am, can you give me some example? Yes, of course. Let's say I have a laptop. है ना? Let's say I have a laptop. Laptop is used for my business purpose. When I purchased the laptop, I also took ITC of the same because of course I can take credit. Of course I can take the credit, anything that I'm using for my business purpose. Whenever I purchase it, I take credit, I take ITC. That is the very foundation of GST. Right, ma'am. Now, Rajshri came to me saying that, ma'am, I want to view lectures. My laptop is not working. I want to view lectures. Can you please give me your laptop? I thought, okay, anyways, I was planning to take a new laptop. I said, okay, you keep my laptop. She said, I'll return it to you, ma'am. I said, no, I don't want. You keep it. You keep it for whatever time you want. In fact, I don't want it, only consider as a gift from me. Now, in this case, I have given her my laptop permanently. Laptop is my business asset. And I had also taken ITC on it when I purchased it, which simply means that today, even if I am giving away this laptop free of cost to someone, I am disposing it freely, then also it will constitute to be a supply. Ma'am, what value? That we'll understand later. For now, it is a supply. But why, ma'am? Understand. Let's say I have a small sister who always wanted a laptop. So what I did was, just so that we can get the benefit of credit, I first took the laptop in my firm and then I gifted it. So what happened basically, I also got the ITC. Because if she would have purchased the laptop, she would never have got ITC because she is not having a business, no GST number. So first of all, I purchased the laptop, took credit in my GST number and then I gifted it permanently. I am never using that laptop for my business purpose and still claiming ITC from government. So that is wrong, no. So therefore, government is saying that even without consideration, if you are transferring or disposing any of your asset, and this also includes stock, all the assets, any kind of asset that you have taken ITC on. Government has given you ITC because government is expecting that you will use them in your business purpose. You will generate some revenue on which you will collect GST from your customers. Therefore, government is giving you credit. Hence, government is saying here that any asset that you permanently transfer on which you had availed ITC, then in that case, even if you supply it free of cost, we will consider it as supply without consideration. We will charge GST. What value? That we will understand later in the chapter of value of supply. Say yes or no. So let's say there's a holding company gifting all of its assets to a subsidiary company, to its own subsidiary company for nil consideration. Will it still be a supply? The answer is yes. So permanent transfer disposal of business asset on which ITC availed. What if ma'am ITC was not availed? Then government has no problem, going by the example that I just now explained to you. Chalo. So point number 1, permanent transfer business asset ITC availed will be qualified as supply even without consideration. Second, supply between related person or distinct person in course furtherance of business. See, who are our related person? SOFA corps. Who are distinct person? Same PAN, separate registration. So, if you are undertaking any transaction in course furtherance of business with your own related or distinct person, then it qualifies as a supply even without consideration. Ma'am, example. I have a shop in Mumbai. I have a shop in Ahmedabad, which means Gujarat and Maharashtra. So from my Maharashtra branch, I transferred goods to my Gujarat branch. Are they both distinct person? Yes, ma'am. My own 2 places, 2 states, same PAN, separate registration. Same PAN, separate registrations means it is a distinct person. So from my Mumbai shop, if I am transferring some stock to my Ahmedabad shop, it will qualify as supply even without consideration because it is happening in course furtherance of business and it is between distinct persons. Say yes or no. Yes, ma'am. Let's say a director and a company, they are related person, engage in some kind of transaction for business purpose, also becomes a supply even without consideration. So any 2 related or distinct person undertaking a transaction without consideration in course furtherance of business will qualify to be a supply. Let's say I gifted a diamond ring to my husband. He gave me this ring, in return I also gave him a ring. So husband gave ring to me, I gave ring to husband. Tell me, will it qualify as supply? Say yes or no. Husband gave ring to me, I gave ring to husband. Will it qualify as supply? Say yes or no. Ma'am, no. Why no? Husband is my related person. Husband is family and family simply says that spouse and children always related person. Ma'am, he is your related person, but you are not doing this in course furtherance of business. Therefore, this will not be considered as supply. Very good. So, both the conditions has to be satisfied, related person, distinct person and also in course furtherance of business. Then we will say that even without consideration, it is a supply. There is one exception to it. Relationship between employer and employee. Let's say employer is gifting something to employee, of course related to business only because their relationship is only connected with business. So if an employer is gifting something to employee, it does not immediately become a supply. Here we say that SOFA corps, okay, SOFA corps. E means employer employee. So employer and employee are related person. But if an employer is gifting anything up to 50,000, means 50,000 rupees or anything which is equivalent to 50,000 rupees per annum, we don't treat it as supply. So employer is open to gift anything to employee. Employer is open to gift anything to employee up to rupees 50,000 per annum and it will not be considered as a supply. Let's say on Diwali, employer decided to give all the employees a small gift box and let's say some small items, whatever, and it was up to 50,000 only. Why the employer did this? In course furtherance of business, to maintain the bond with employees, to grow the business, to gain publicity or whatever could be the reason. Related to business somewhere. Employer employee related person, and let's say employer gave all the employees a mobile phone. A mobile phone worth 17,000 rupees given to all the employees. Will it constitute to be a supply? No, ma'am. Per employee, per annum, up to 50,000, it will not be considered as supply. Per employee, per annum, up to 50,000, it will not be considered as supply. Let's say gift worth 75,000 is given to employee. Then it becomes a supply. My question is, what will be the value of supply? Entire 75,000 or only 25,000, that is above 50,000 limit? It is only distinct person, related person and distinct person. That is what is written in the Act. Chalo. Very good. Ma'am, 50,000 is a checkpoint. If you breach the checkpoint, then entire amount becomes supply. If you breach the checkpoint, then entire amount will become supply. It is not that whatever is above 50,000 will only be considered as supply. No, entire 75,000 will become supply if you are breaching the limit of 50,000. Up to 50,000, if employer gifting anything to employee, not considered as supply. Okay, ma'am. Third point. Agent supplying any goods to principal, principal supplying any goods to agent, only and only goods covered here, not services. So let's say you have an agent, a selling agent means you supply to your agent, agent supplies further. Or let's say you have a purchasing agent, agent purchase from third person and then gives it to you. So you could either receive the goods from agent or you could even send the goods to agent, whatever it is. If an agent is sending goods to principal or a principal is sending goods to agent, it will also be considered as supply even without consideration. We have a whole clarification with respect to it that we will discuss later on. Who exactly is an agent? Everything we will discuss here. See. Chalo. So we will understand everything with respect to para 3 schedule 1, that who is agent, how does this work and everything. For now you can simply remember that if any goods are transferred between principal to agent or agent to principal, even without consideration will be considered as supply, but only and only goods and not services. Goods are tangible, can be seen. What services principal agent are doing, we cannot see. So for my agent to be my agent, if he is actually charging any consideration, there is actually any consideration for service, only then it is supply. For goods, no consideration required between principal and agent. And the last point simply talks about import of service. Again, only import of service. Why, ma'am? Because import of goods dealt with Customs Act. So import of service, if it is without consideration, then to qualify as supply, it has to satisfy two criteria. One, it has to be from related person or own establishment. Now I cannot call it as a distinct person. Why? Because distinct person is same PAN, separate registration. But if I have an establishment in some another country, it will of course be my establishment. It cannot be registered. Let's say I have one branch in Pakistan. Can my Pakistan branch be registered under GST? No, because GST is in India, Indian territory. How can outside India branch be registered under GST? No. Therefore, it cannot be called as my distinct person. It will always be my establishment only. So here I am saying that if I am importing some service, from my related person or own establishment and plus also in course furtherance of business, if both these conditions are satisfied, then even without consideration, this import of service will be treated as supply only. So Schedule 1, Section 7(1)(c), Schedule 1 talks about 4 paras which are treated as supply even without consideration. One is permanent transfer or disposal of business asset which ITC availed. Example, holding company, subsidiary company. Second, supply between related person or distinct person only if it is for business purpose. Example, stock transfer between branches. An exception is employer-employee gift up to 50,000. Then goods transferred between principal and agent, but remember only goods and not services. And last point is import of services from related person or own establishment in course furtherance of business. And here we officially complete entire section 7(1). Supply includes. So what we understand with respect to import of services, particularly understand, not goods, again repeating, import of service. If it is with consideration, then according to section 7(1)(b), if it is business or it is personal, always supply. But according to section 7(1)(c), if it is from related person, own establishment and in course furtherance of business, only then supply. Otherwise, not a supply. Tell me, are you all confident with respect to section 7(1) supply includes? What all is included in the definition of supply? With consideration, without consideration, section 7(1)(a), section 7(1)(b, 7(1)AA and 7(1)(c). Shall I ask you some questions to test whether you are actually confident or not? Tell me. Ready for questions? Shoot, ma'am. Ready for questions to test the understanding? Okay. Close your book for 2 minutes. You will not see the answers. I have already mentioned the answers here in the book. So close your books for 2 minutes and you just concentrate on the screen. Questions are here. You will not see the answers. Okay. You will not see answers. We have questions here. Chalo quickly. Let's say Babu Bhaiya received interior designing services for his residential house from Japan, 10,000 yen. Tell me whether it is supply or not. If it is a supply, then under which section? You have to tell me along with section reference. If supply, which section? If no supply, then okay, no supply. The question is, Babu received interior design service for residential house from Japan for 10,000 yen. Is it a supply quickly? Yes or no? Now we don't have all the time. Ma'am, see, designing services are received from Japan, which means it is import of service, and it is an import of service for consideration. If import of service is for consideration, then no need to check whether it is residential purpose or business purpose, nothing. Any import of service for consideration according to section 7(1)(b, according to section 7(1)(b) will be considered as supply. Very good. Next question, Babu Bhaiya received legal services for office. Again, legal services for office from USA, $150. Ma'am, again, from USA we have imported, again import of service for consideration. Then be it residential purpose, be it office purpose, doesn't matter. Under both the cases, it will be a supply under section 7(1)(b) because both of them are import of service for consideration. One is personal purpose and one is business purpose. So answer 1, answer 2 both are section 7(1)(b) qualifies as supply. Done, ma'am. Then third question. Kriti obtained consultancy services from her son staying in Germany for her office purpose without any consideration. Now, ma'am, golden rule simply says no consideration, no supply. Now, this is not written somewhere. It is only for our understanding. Golden rule, no consideration, no supply. Okay, ma'am. But only there are 4 paras which constitute as supply without consideration. Now, since this is without consideration, we will check for schedule 1. Okay, so schedule 1 particularly related to import of service because we have imported consultancy service from Germany. Para number 4 says that if you have imported from related person, own establishment and in course furtherance of business, then it will be supply. So let us check. It is for her office purpose, means it is for business, and she has imported from her son. Now, son is always related person. Son is always related person. So here we will say that the condition of being imported from related person and own establishment, and also for course furtherance of business, import of service without consideration according to section 7(1)(c), schedule 1, para 4. Section 7(1)(c), schedule 1, para 4, this is a supply. Shivani, tell me, is it now clear to you? Shivani said, ma'am, this is no supply because it is not business purpose. Who said it is not business purpose? This is for office purpose, clearly written. Shivani, jaldi. If import of service are from related person, own establishment plus in course furtherance of business without consideration, then it is a supply. Done, ma'am. Chalo next. Capture Digital Studio donated its old camera to charity. ITC was taken. Tell me, again donation. We have donated the camera, means it is without consideration. Now for without consideration, we need to check schedule 1, all the 4 paras. Then schedule 1, para 1 says that permanent transfer business asset ITC availed. Let us check if all 3 conditions are satisfied. We have donated means of course we are not going to go and ask it back. So it is a permanent transfer. For a digital studio, is camera a business asset? Yes, ma'am. And ITC was also taken on it, which simply means it is a supply under section 7(1)(c), schedule 1, para 1. Got it, ma'am. Latika gifted an old car. ITC is blocked on the car. Now, for now, let us pretend that we don't know anything. Now, you would have heard probably about it that ITC on cards, ITC on food, ITC on all of these things are blocked even if you purchase them for business purpose. Now, even if you don't know, do not worry, we will study it in the chapter of ITC. For now, question is simply saying that ITC is blocked on the car. So, Latika used to use a car for its business purpose which she gifted to her friend. Tell me, supply or not a supply? Car gifted to friend that we used to use for business purpose, supply or not a supply? Okay, ma'am, because we have gifted, it is no consideration. No consideration means we need to check Schedule 1, 4 paras. So, Schedule 1, Para 1 talks about permanent transfer, business asset, ITC availed. Permanent transfer, yes, we have gifted. Business asset, yes, ma'am. ITC not availed. Because this is permanent transfer, business asset, ITC not availed, it does not fall under Schedule 1, any of the paras, and therefore it will fall under golden rule, which means no consideration, no supply. Since ITC is not availed on the free asset gifted, it will not be considered as supply. Similarly, let's say there is Richie Rich Private Limited. Private Limited means company, of course, company using car for business purpose only. Sold an old car for 5 lakh rupees. A company sold its car for 5 lakh rupees. Tell me, ITC on car is block, we know. Now we know that ITC on car is block. But the company has sold a car for 5 lakh rupees. Is it a supply or not a supply? If supply, under which section? If not a supply, then no section required. चलो बोलो ना रिच रिच प्राइवेट लिमिटेड का केस. Very good guys. Just because I ask you this question right after this doesn't mean you always have to check the ITC condition. For section 7(1)(a), ITC condition was not required only. If for consideration, then whatever you are selling for your business purpose, being a person, of course qualifies as supply. Now of course a company having a car will be for business purpose only. How can company use for personal? So we simply say there's a company who is a person, sold a car, sold. It is a form of supply. Car is a goods. Whether ITC availed, not availed becomes irrelevant, Joseph. Joseph, listen. Whether ITC availed or not availed now becomes irrelevant because section 7(1)(c), 7(1)(a) had no condition for ITC. It simply said any form of supply of goods, services both made, agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business becomes a supply. So this is a regular normal supply under section 7(1)(a), awaiting for Joseph's reply that yes ma'am, it is clear to me and all other students who made a mistake. Done, ma'am. Then Priyanka gifted an outfit worth 60,000 to her husband Nick. Simply, I've gifted my husband a shirt. Let's say. Is it a supply? Say yes or no. Ma'am, because it is gift, we have to check Schedule 1. Now, Schedule 1 simply says supply between related person, distinct person in course furtherance of business. Now, Priyanka and Nick being husband and wife are related person, but is gifting a shirt in their course furtherance of business? The answer is no. Therefore, we say that they are related, but the gift is not in course furtherance of business, therefore does not fall under Schedule 1 and therefore it is not a supply. This is not 5, this is point number 7, 6 and then point number 7 here. Chalo. So we did 7 questions to clarify everything related to section 7(1). I need to know all of your scores. Out of 7, how much did you all score? I got all 7 correct, so my score is 7 on 7. Everyone will quickly tell me their score and then we move forward. All the students viewing in recorded mode, this kind of self-assessment is very important for you to understand that, okay ma'am, now I am sure that I need no revision for this now. For now, everything is clear. I've got 7 on 7. 6 on 7 simply meant that, okay, whatever mistake I did, it got clarified. If you have a score less than 5, then which simply means any score less than 5 means you will have to sit with this section, read it one more time and then it will be clear to us. 5, 6, 7 is okay because we studied for the first time. Anything less than 5, you need to give time to this section one more time. Chalo. Done? Clear. Now moving on to section 7(1)(a). See, what we are studying? We are studying section 7. S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. 7(1) said supply includes. 7(1) said supply includes. For consideration, without consideration. We saw A, B, AA and C. We also saw Schedule 1 which had 4 paras relating to supply without consideration. Now talking about section 7(1)(a). 7(1)(a) says that, okay, we understood it is a supply from section 7(1). Now we need to clarify whether it is supply of goods or it is supply of service. For that we study section 71A schedule 2. Now even if I don't teach you section 71A, I am 100% sure you will all give right answers only. Tell me. Question number 1. I am selling a pen. I am selling a pen. This pen belonged to me. I sold this pen for 7,000 rupees. Tell me, what is it? Supply of goods or service? Question number 2. I only gave this pen for use for 2 days and then you returned this pen again to me after using it for 2 days for a consideration of 500 or 600. Is it supply of goods or service? Tell me. Use of a pen. Then question number 3. Let's say I gave a building on rent to you. I gave a building on rent to you. Is it goods or service? Quickly keep answering fast. 1, 2, 3. Question number 4. I gave you this cover. I'm very fond of, let's say, covers, mobile phone covers. So I gave you this cover of my phone and I wanted you to paint on this cover and give it back to me. So I gave you this cover, you painted and give it back to me. So in that case, let's say cover which already belonged to me. I gave you a cover for painting. Is it goods or service? Is it goods or service? Ma'am, question number 1. Simply I am transferring a pen means of course there is a transfer of goods, it's a supply under goods. But use of something, I am just giving you transfer, I am just giving you possession control, I will take this thing back from you. Means I am not giving you pen as a good, I am giving you the service of using a pen. I am only giving you the service of you to use the pen and not giving you the entire pen as a goods, which means this is a service. Then giving a building on rent, of course, becomes a service. Cover belongs to me. I have simply given you the cover to paint and give it back. Means you have simply done a painting service for me. So this is a service. Say yes or no. This is what is entire section 71A all about, where they will teach us what is goods and what is service. So section 71A says that you have to refer schedule 2. Schedule 1 was supply without consideration. Now schedule 2 simply talks about what is goods and what is services. Okay. So the first point says that if I have transferred entire title in my goods, it becomes supply of goods. Example, I transferred entire pen to you. It became supply of goods. But I am not giving you the entire title or ownership of my goods. I am simply giving you a right or an undivided share in the goods without transfer of title. Some students have made a mistake in point number 2. Majority students have given all 4 answers correct, but 1 or 2 students I am seeing have given answer as supply of goods for case number 2. Why bacha? Just because pen is a good? No, but I am not giving you the pen only, no. Aise to if you see, then building, land and building are not supply only. Then why giving the building on rent is a supply? Because transferring building is separate and giving building on rent is separate. Similarly, you can think of it as I have given a pen on rent to you, and renting of course becomes a supply of service. Therefore, right or giving undivided share in goods without transfer of title becomes services. Tell me Siddhi. Siddhi and Vidhi. Areva, Vidhi and Siddhi made mistake in this. Is it now clear to us that why not goods and why service? So we are Riddhi, Siddhi and Vidhi here in the batch. Wow. Any Nidhi here? So we'll all make a nice group. Riddhi, Siddhi, Vidhi, Nidhi. Chalo. Yes ma'am, now it is clear that why service and why not goods. You can simply think of it as I am giving the pen on rent to you, which becomes service. Okay. Then title in goods under an agreement which stipulates that property in goods shall pass at a future date. You have purchased a car on hire purchase. You have purchased a car, let's say on hire purchase, which simply means that you need to pay EMIs. They will give you the transfer, the control, the possession of the car today only. But title will be transferred to you on a future date once you are done with all the EMIs. So the question here is, should I consider it as service or should I consider it as goods? This is a good point here, I can say. So now they are saying what is the intention, you check that. Even if today I am only giving transfer and not giving ownership. My underlying intention is that at a future date, when all the payment and everything is done, I want to pass the title. I want to pass the title. Let's say I am giving goods on approval or return basis. I am giving goods on hire purchase basis, where my intention is to actually transfer the title only at a future date once you make me a payment. Then today only, when this car is sold on hire purchase, we consider it as supply of goods only and not service. So we say title in goods under an agreement. Title, why is the pen not working? Just a second. Chalo. So we say that title in goods under an agreement which stipulates that property shall pass at a future date. We are just waiting for the consideration to get over. We have given you the transfer now only. But it is not that we only want to give you the transfer. We actually want to give you the ownership. We are just waiting that once you pay the consideration, ownership will pass on to you. Examples could be still on approval or return basis, hire purchase. Then this will all since day one only considered as supply of goods only. Okay, ma'am. Then supply of land building is outside the purview of GST, but giving the building on lease, tenancy, easement, license, letting out, it will all be treated as supply of service. It is absolutely clear. Then the example that I gave of the mobile phone cover. I gave you my cover, you painted and gave it back to me, which simply means that on some another person's goods, you are simply doing some kind of activity process and giving those goods back to us, which means it will be a supply of service. Best example could be job work. Now, there could be a doubt arising here. I gave you a t-shirt. I wanted you to paint this t-shirt, put some hangings here, put some buttons here, a ribbon here and all this thing. Now in this case, I gave you a t-shirt. So the goods belong to me. I gave the t-shirt to you to decorate it, to put some articles on it. Now you might argue that ma'am, this is not pure service, because while providing this service, while working on your t-shirt, I also attached some accessories, some buttons, something, other things. So can we consider it as supply of goods also? Because to provide you the service of decorating the t-shirt, I had to use my own goods. So will it now become supply of goods because I have supplied buttons, I have supplied some kind of accessories, I have supplied some kind of hangings, etc. along with the service? The answer here is no. Government simply says that while performing work on some another person's goods, you will of course use some of your own goods. Even if I am painting my mobile cover, some paint is used, doesn't mean that person is selling me paint. That person is giving me service only. To provide the service, some goods can be used. It will still be considered as supply of service only. Is it making sense to all of us? Tell me. Is it making sense that if I am applying some treatment or process on some another person's goods, I will of course use some of my own goods. Doesn't mean I am selling those goods to that person. I am giving service only. To give service, I might use some of my goods. Makes sense? Say yes or no. Yes, ma'am. Then transfer of business asset. If I am permanently transferring, of course goods. Temporarily transferring, only for use, service. And one last point says that, let's say I set up an entire office. I got this table, a chair, a fridge, an AC and a lot of things, other things. And I claimed ITC on everything. I am now running a business, must. And tomorrow I decide to close this business. I decide to cease to be a taxable person anymore. I want to close this business, I'll take all of my assets home or whatever I will do with these assets, but I'm closing my business. Government here simply says that if you cease to be a taxable person, we will assume as if all of your assets are transferred and there has been a supply of goods that has happened. Why? The same logic again. I set up a business, purchase a lot of assets, take ITC and then decide to close the business. Why will government give me credit? So government simply says that if you are closing your business, we gave you ITC on a simple thought that you will use these assets for your business purpose, generate more revenue, generate more GST for government. Yes, it is like job work only. Example is written, no? Job work. Okay, ma'am. So if you decide to cease to be a taxable person, it simply means that all of the business assets that you are holding, we will assume as if they are transferred and it will be considered as supply of goods. But there are two exceptions to it when the business is not closing. Let's say I have a business and I died today. Oh my god, ma'am, who will complete the batch? Hey, do not worry, I'm not dying this soon. So let's say I have a business and I died today and my now representative is running on my business, carrying on my business. Means those assets are still being used as a business, or I'm not closing the business, I'm transferring it as a going concern as it is to someone else. In this case, the business continues. The assets continue to be used in the course furtherance of business, and therefore they will not be considered as supply of goods immediately. So we see there are two exceptions: when I'm transferring the business as going concern, or where the business is carried on by representative who is deemed to be a taxable person. Then in that case, it will not be considered as a deemed supply. Otherwise than that, whenever a person ceases to be a taxable person, all of the assets that he had taken in his business will be compulsorily treated as they have been transferred and a transfer of goods has happened. Renting of immovable property is a supply of service, of course. Then this point number 5b. What does this point mean? We are saying construction of a building, complex or civil structure is considered as supply of service. But when it will be considered as construction is the question here. So let's say you have purchased a building which is under construction, which means the building is not over yet, the building is not completed yet, means there is no building only as such. It is not existing. It is under construction. It is under formation. At that point of time, if you are paying any consideration to your builder, it will not be treated as if you have purchased an immovable property. It will be treated as if you are paying for construction service. Listen to me very carefully. What are you saying, ma'am? I am saying if there is any building, complex, civil structure, whatever it is, and completion certificate has not yet been issued by a competent authority, or first occupation is not yet done. First occupation means nobody has actually came into that property and started residing. Means CC or FO, nothing is done yet. Whenever a building or a property is completed, you have to show it to government. Government gives you a completion certificate that okay, everything is okay, construction is done, fit for residential purpose. So neither completion certificate has been issued nor first occupation is done. If before this I am paying any consideration, then we will treat it as a consideration being paid for supply of service and not a consideration that is paid for transfer of the immovable property. Means GST will apply considering it as to be a supply of service. But if CCFO, whichever is earlier, is done, after that I am paying, then it will be treated as payment for immovable property, which will be outside GST. Ma'am, do you mean to say that if I purchase an already prepared property, an already constructed property, then GST will not apply? But if I purchase an under construction property, GST will apply? Yes, exactly, this is what I am trying to say. So let's take an example. Construction started on 1st Jan 2024. Completion certificate was issued on 12/12/2024. I paid consideration worth 50 lakh rupees for this property on 20 December 24. And then I was the first person to actually go and occupy the building. So I occupied the building on the New Year's Eve, 31st December 24. First occupation was done. Tell me whether GST will be applicable on this 50 lakh that I have paid. Will GST be applicable on this 50 lakh that I have paid as a consideration to purchase this property? Tell me yes or no. No, ma'am, out of scope, because CC, FO, whichever is earlier, they have said if anything out of CC or FO has happened, we will treat it as okay, the building is now complete. Means any consideration paid after CC or FO, anything has happened, and then we are paying consideration. Both are not required to happen. Any one of them, has, even if has happened, it will be without GST only. Let's say I paid the amount on 6/6/2024, then CCFO, nothing had been issued. I am paying before CCFO. Then I will say GST will be applicable. Why? Because then we treat it as supply of service and not as a purchase of immovable property. Say yes or no. Praveen, I mean Vidhi. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Then the what if, ma'am, part before, part after? Then whatever part before, GST applicable. Part after, GST not applicable. Okay, ma'am. So we are saying construction of complex building, civil structure will be treated as supply of service. Consideration should be received before CC or FO, whichever is earlier. The before word is important because after would be treated as sale of land building, which is outside the scope of GST. Okay, ma'am. Then temporary transfer or permitting use of intellectual property rights. You're simply giving intellectual property rights to someone. Let's say there are these singers, musicians who give their rights to some other person, movie rights, whatever IPR rights we understand. Then development, design, programming, customization, upgradation, enhancement of software. This is all supply of service only. Then agreeing to obligation to refrain from an act, to tolerate an act, and to do an act. Now there are three things. Three things involved here that we are going to discuss in detail. We have a full 2-3 pages clarification on the same. I am only giving you an overview. See, we are going to understand this thing in detail here. To refrain from an act, to do an act, to tolerate an act, everything we will discuss. I am only giving you an overview for now in 2 minutes. Three things that I have agreed for. To do something, to not do something, or to tolerate something. To do something, to not do something, or to tolerate something. A part of it I also explained you while I was teaching you the definition of consideration. So let's say Joseph passes with 95 marks in IDT and Joseph decides to teach IDT. I told to Joseph that no, you are not going to teach IDT, I will give you 20 lakh rupees. Now in this case, he is agreeing to not do an act. He is agreeing to refrain from an act. He is also providing me a service. What is his service, ma'am? Not doing is also a service. Or simply to do something is also a service. Or someone is doing something, I am simply tolerating. It is not allowed in our society to play loud music after 10 p.m. But I wanted to celebrate. There was a party. I paid 10,000 rupees to my society and said that today you guys please tolerate. I will play loud music. Means they are giving me service to tolerate my loud music. So to refrain from an act means to not do an act, to do an act, or to simply tolerate an act. Everything is supply of service only. For whichever you charge consideration, it becomes a supply of service. Example could be non-compete agreements, late delivery charges, notice pay recovered, etc. They are all supply of service only. Then transfer of rights. To use any goods for any purpose, simply transfer of rights will be treated as supply of service. And two particular things government has clarified only. That we know it has component of both goods and services, but we want you to treat it as supply of service only. One is restaurant. Today if you go to restaurant, you go for food also, you go for ambience also, right? Food is a good, ambience is a service. But government has clarified only under Schedule 2 Section 7(1)(a) that we will treat it as supply of service only always. Even though food is being served at a restaurant, food is a good, but we will not treat it as supply of goods, we will treat it as supply of service only. They have clarified it, they have mentioned it. And same for works contract. What do you understand by the term works contract? Anyone here? What is works contract? So there are two terms. One is works contract and one is construction. If I want to build a building today, I have two options available with me. Option number one, I can go to market, purchase cements, brick, steel, pipes, screws, everything that is required to build this property. I can purchase on my own. I can hire laborers, I can hire painters, carpenters, architect and get everything done. That is construction. Works contract simply means I hired a person. I gave him 1 crore rupees. I said, you keep this 1 crore. This is how I want my property to look. Now this person is only liable to go find a painter, carpenter, to go purchase all the materials, etc. required. So if material plus labor, everything is given to one person only for a consideration, this becomes a works contract. And if I decide to purchase all goods and all services separately, that becomes a consideration, right? So here works contract involves both the things, of course goods and services, but we consider it as supply of service only. Predominance is service. Basically, this person is providing me the service to build my property. Now, to provide this service, he also need to purchase goods, which is understood. So, government has clarified this simply that you need not worry about it. Wherever you see works contract or restaurant, we know that there are equal parts of goods services involved, but still we always want you to treat it as supply of service only. Say yes or no. Here we complete entire section 7.1a. S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. 7.1 says supply includes for consideration, without consideration. 7.1a says that okay, if understood, if this transaction is a supply, then is it supply of goods or is it supply of service? You need to understand according to schedule 2. Tell me, was this simple and clear? There were only 2 or 3 points that you were required to note. One was this point, construction wala point that I explained, and second was, I guess, this point. That today, even if I am giving transfer, but the intent is to give ownership or the entire title in future, then we treat it as goods only today. Other than that, I believe everything is simple. Ma'am, what about construction then? You explained works contract. What about construction? Construction is nothing is lump sum, no. If I go to purchase a brick, considered as supply of goods. If I go to purchase steel, pipes, considered as supply of goods. If I go and get a service of painter, it will be considered as service. They are all individual transactions. No. So, transactions which qualify as goods will be goods. Transactions which qualify as service will be service. But for works contract, I give entire 1 crore to one person only. Now, he will only get goods also, he will only get service also. So, now you have to treat entire thing as a service. Siddhi, bolo. Got it? Got it, Siddhi? Tell me quickly. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Chalo. So, construction is entire separate thing. There is no doubt only with respect to construction. Doubt can arise when works contract only, because that has mixed elements. Construction, particular transaction, you deal it particular ways. Yes, Joseph. Okay. Chalo. In some cases, they treat entire also to be a supply, considering that the agreement was done prior only. There is ambiguity with respect to that. Okay. Clear, ma'am. We stick to the simple rule. What if, ma'am? What if, let's say, CC or FO is issued here? My entire property is for 50 lakh. I paid 20 lakh before it and I paid 30 lakh after it. Now what to do? Whatever you have paid before will be considered as supply of service only. With respect to this, some opinions say that because you have paid the consideration later, CCFO issued, means you should not treat it as supply. Whereas majority of the people say that because you have agreed everything here, everything is agreed for consideration only, then you have to treat it as supply of service. So there is kind of ambiguity here. But for this, we are absolutely clear. Whatever we pay before CCFO, it is a service only. Whatever we pay after, if contract was already entered into earlier only, then you can treat it as supply of service. If contract was only not entered and everything paid after only, then it is not a supply. Okay, majority people go by contract wise, that since the entire contract was done earlier, we will consider everything as supply. Majorly, that is being practiced in the industry. Okay, ma'am. But ICI will not ask you because there is ambiguity. Now, 7.1 supply includes 7.1a whether it is goods or service. Now, 7.3, ma'am, where is 7.2? Just wait for 2 minutes. 7.3 is a 2-line section. Will property be cheaper if purchased after CCFO? Yes. Property will be cheaper to you because GST component will be vanished now. GST component will be vanished. So, yes, if you purchase the property after issuance of CC or FO, property will be comparatively cheaper to you when it is under construction phase. Okay, ma'am. Chalo. Now, section 7.3. Section 7.3 simply talks about some powers that government has. It is only an empowering section. Section 7.3 says that government has power. Government has power to notify certain transaction as supply of goods not service or supply of service not goods. What do you mean by this? Let's say As in, government has simply said that restaurant is a service and not goods. Works contract is a service and not goods. Similarly, tomorrow government has this power that they can use this power under section 7(3), and if they want to make a particular transaction qualify as supply of service, they can say that from tomorrow this will be supply of service and not goods. They can come and say that from now we want to treat restaurant as goods and not service. They can do this for any particular transaction. If they want to, they can use this power under section 7(3). It is just an empowering section which says that if government wants, it may, on recommendation of GST Council, notify certain transactions that you will now have to treat them as supply of goods and not service, or supply of service and not goods. So they can simply use this power, add more activities in schedule 2 to treat them as goods or service. Like they have said that anything with respect to software, development, design, programming, customization, upgradation, everything of software is service. Tomorrow they can come and say that no, now we want to treat software as goods. They can do so. Understood? Yes or no? Section over? Yes ma'am. It is just a 2-line section which simply says that government may, on recommendation of council, notify certain transactions to be treated as goods not service or service not goods. And then last section of the chapter, which is section 7(2). 7(1) says supply includes. 7(2) says supply excludes. 7(1) says supply includes, 7(2) says supply excludes. 7(3) simply says government has power to notify something as goods not service or service not goods. Now 7(1) says includes, then 7(1)(a) says that okay, includes, but includes what? Goods or service? That we study according to schedule 2. Are all the 4 section names clear to you? This is section 7, yes. Section 7 only has 4 subsections. 7(1) supply includes. 1 says include, 7(2) runs and comes. No, wait, exclude. 7(1) says include, 7(2) says exclude. 7(3) says government has power to notify certain transaction as goods not service, service not goods. And since 1 says includes, 1(a) says okay, includes, but goods or service, we will see according to schedule 2. Tell me yes ma'am. Okay. So now under section 7(2), which talks about supply excludes, we have 7(2)(a) and 7(2)(b). First of all, we will discuss about section 7(2)(a). 7(2)(a) talks about a negative list given under schedule 3. A negative list given under schedule 3. Now 7(2)(a) simply says that agreed even if something is goods or service, agreed even if it is falling under the definition of supply, we particularly want it to exclude from supply definition and we particularly want it to be outside the scope of GST. To make this very simple for you all, that you will never forget, even after you become chartered accountant 10-15 years later also, you will remember negative list. How ma'am? Using our mnemonic. Negative list is simply FB changes. We all have stopped using FB. We all have moved towards Instagram. Means the Facebook is now a part of negative list for us who uses Facebook these days. So we'll simply say that Facebook has changed. Just a technique to learn the negative list under schedule 3. A technique to learn the negative list under schedule 3. It says FB changes. FB changes. Ma'am, what is FB changes? Chalo. One by one we will see what is FB changes. F simply means services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium, including transportation of deceased. Services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium, including transportation of deceased. At least leave the person on his death. Do not ask GST from him. So let's say there's this dead body here. Dead body, and you called a dead body van for transportation of this body from home to the place of cremation. Now in that case, whatever consideration this van is charging from you, of course they will not transport the body for free. So let's say you booked a must proper van and you got this person transported from home to crematorium place. In that case, whatever consideration this one person will charge, it will not be liable to GST. Is it a service? Yes, it is a service. Is consideration involved? Yes, involved. Is it his business? Yes, business. Means everything is satisfied. All conditions are satisfied. But even then, Section 72A negative list clearly says that we do not want to charge GST on it. Please do not include it in supply. So any amount, let's say this, what do you call it? We call it Muktidham, Mokshadham, the place where you are burying the person or the place where you are cremating the person, that place would also charge some consideration from you to give you that place, to give you that time to bury that person or to burn the person. So whatever amount they charge, will it be liable to GST? The answer is no. So F means services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium, including transportation of deceased. Then B means bond to bond transfer. B means bond to bond transfer. You will understand this into much detail when we move on to the customs part of indirect taxes. I will just give you an overview for now. Even if you are not able to entirely understand, do not worry, because I will take half an hour to 45 minutes there in the customs portion to explain you what is one-to-one transfer. For now, I am giving you a very broad overview so that you don't feel like something is missing. Okay. So let's say this is southern part of India. I imported some goods here in India. At the time of importation, I have two options. Whenever I am importing some goods at India's customs station, I have two options. Either I can directly clear the goods for home consumption. So whatever goods, let's say I imported goods worth 10 lakh rupees, I was required to pay 1.2 lakh of the duties. As it is, when the goods came to India, there and then only I paid 1.2 lakh duties, I cleared the goods and I took the goods for home consumption. This is option number 1 that you can opt. Option number 2, let's say you don't have money now, you don't have space now in your factory or in your godown, or due to any other reason, you don't want to clear the goods now. You will clear the goods but at a future date. Now in this case, government gives you an option number 2, where you can keep your goods in a customs warehouse. So we have customs bonded warehouse. We have customs bonded warehouses. So what you can do is you can keep the goods here in the bonded warehouse till the time you want to keep. And here you are not required to pay any customs duty. So let's say today I import the goods and I want to keep the goods in customs bonded warehouse for 30 days. I can keep it. I simply need to pay some nominal rent, etc. I can keep these goods in bonded warehouse for 30 days without paying duties. Now later, after 30 days, when I clear the goods, at that point of time I am required to pay the duties. So when you deposit the goods into warehouse, you file a bond name as into bond bill of entry. So today if I am keeping my goods in customs warehouse without paying any customs duty, I simply need to file into bond bill of entry. I will declare that yes, after 30 days I will pay the duty and I will clear the goods. They simply ask for some security and bank guarantee, etc. and they let us keep our goods there in the warehouse. After 30 days, when I clear the goods from the warehouse, I need to file an NX bond bill of entry. So here they are saying that here, when my goods are lying in customs warehouse. Now also one more thing that you need to understand if you already don't know this. Whenever I import some kind of a goods, I am required to pay custom duty. Yes ma'am. And the point where you are paying custom duty, along with that only, you also need to pay GST. So the time to pay GST for importing any goods is simply the same time when you are paying customs duty. So let's say the goods are worth 10 lakh and I have to pay 1.2 lakh custom duty. Then on the 11.2 lakh, I will have to pay GST also at this time only, the same time when I am paying my customs duty. So all the duties and taxes are paid together only, which simply means that today if I have deposited my goods into warehouse, I have neither paid customs, I have nor paid GST and my goods are lying there in the warehouse. I have not even yet filed X bond bill of entry. When my goods are in the warehouse, I decided to sell them to someone. I am not having sufficient cash, let's say. I do not have cash only to pay custom duty and clear the goods. So what I simply do, or due to any other reason, my goods are in the warehouse. I am Riddhi. My goods are in the warehouse and I meet, let's say, Rupesh. And I tell him that see, my goods are there in the customs bonded warehouse. I can take Rupesh there. I can show him my goods and there only I have sold the goods to him. Which means now I will not be required to clear the goods. Who will clear the goods from the warehouse? Rupesh will clear the goods from the warehouse. and the point where when he will clear the goods, he will only be liable to pay the custom duty plus GST at that point of time. So this transaction between me and Rupesh, where I have sold the goods to Rupesh when the goods are in the warehouse only, no GST will be applicable. Why no GST will be applicable, ma'am? Because GST on this entire amount will be applicable later when Rupesh clear the goods from the bonded warehouse. Say yes or no. It is not like import of goods is not a supply. Import of goods is treated along with customs duties only. Jaswant, ma'am, you said no, कि import of goods are not supply. It is not that import of goods is not a supply. Of course, it is a supply. It is just that the provisions are not explained in the supply chapter. Why? Because they simply say, in IGST Act, they will simply say we will study a chapter named as import and export under GST. We have a dedicated chapter named as import export under GST, where the section simply says that we do not want to deal with import under goods. We want GST, but we want GST according to customs. So whenever customs will levy custom duty, at that point of time only whatever according to HSN code GST is applicable on the goods, you pay GST also. So customs assessable value plus custom duty on this entire amount, customs assessable value plus customs duty on this entire amount, we want to charge GST. And whenever you are paying custom duty, at that point of time only, you will have to pay GST. So this B point, which simply says bond to bond transfer, means that I have not cleared my goods directly for home consumption. The goods came to India, I decided to deposit the goods in the customs bonded warehouse. Means no custom, no GST paid yet. Now this person to whom I have sold the goods, he will later clear the goods out of this customs warehouse. At that point of time, he will pay GST as well as custom duty both. So today, when I am selling these goods to this person while my goods are still in the bonded warehouse, no GST will be applicable on this transaction happening between us. Say yes or no, is this point clear to all of you? We will understand bonded warehouse, into bond, ex bond, everything into much details when we move on to the customs part. For now, I only want you to understand the meaning of bond to bond transfer, which is falling under negative list of GST. Say yes or no, everyone. Tell me no quickly, is it clear? Yes, ma'am. Then C means services of court or tribunal. Services of court or tribunal. So you go to file a case and let's say or tribunal simply means NCLT or SESTAT for customs, GST tribunal, all of these judicial tribunals. So if at all there is any company law related matter, you will go to NCLT, they will charge some kind of a fees from you, or there is a normal judicial matter, you will go to court, court will charge some fees from you. So whatever amount you are paying to courts or tribunals because you want justice will not be applicable under GST. Of course it is a service, of course there is consideration, but still of course justice should be tax free for all of us, which is a very common sense thing. Therefore we say that for court or tribunal, GST will not be applicable for any fees that we are paying at court or tribunal. H means high sea sale. H means high sea sale. Ma'am, what do you mean by high sea sale? See, this is India. This is USA, let's say. I have imported some goods from USA. The goods have already left the port of origin. This is C. This is C. The goods have left the port of origin. The goods have not yet reached India. Or even if they have reached India, I have not yet paid customs duty. Means if I have not paid customs duty, which simply means I have not paid GST also on the same, because GST will be paid along with customs duty at the same time only. So I am saying that the goods have left the port of origin, but the goods are not yet cleared in India. The goods have left the port of origin, but the goods are not yet cleared in India and they are sold meanwhile. Means my goods are in transit. My goods are in transit. They have left the ship of, they've left the port of origin and they are in high sea. They are in high sea. I met Riddhi. I simply was talking about a consignment that I is arriving. I said, hey, you know, I have ordered 1,000 mobile phones and I got such a cheap rate and this, it. And Riddhi got so much impressed that even without seeing the goods, she was like, I want this consignment. You sell this consignment right away to me. I will do all the import, whatever import procedures or whatever formalities are to be done, I will do. You simply sell this consignment to me, which means I have sold this consignment to someone else without even fulfilling all the customs procedures. The goods have left the port of origin. Either they have not yet arrived India, or even if they've come to India, the customs procedures are yet to be done. Means I have not yet cleared the goods for home consumption. Meanwhile, if I sell the goods to someone, that transaction will not be liable to GST. Why, ma'am? Because now when Vidhi will go to clear these goods, she will pay GST as well as custom duty. Therefore, when I am selling to Vidhi, GST will not be applicable. High sea sales simply means the good have left the port of origin, but they are not yet cleared for home consumption in India. Meanwhile, if I am selling the goods to someone, GST will not be applicable on that transaction. Why, ma'am? Why not applicable? Because when this purchaser will clear the goods, he or she will pay GST at that point of time only. Got it, ma'am? A means actionable claims. A means actionable claims other than. A means actionable claims other than specified actionable claims. Which were the 6 specified actionable claims? Quickly tell me. Who will tell me the 6 specified actionable claims? बोलो ना जल्दी 6 specified actionable claims. Very good. Ma'am, lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, online money gaming and casino. Lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, online money gaming and casino. So, government has simply said that these 6 specified actionable claims will fall under GST. Other than this, any other actionable claim will not fall under GST. So, let's say there is any claim to unsecured debt. It is an actionable claim falling under the definition of goods, but still GST will not be applicable. Ma'am, what is the difference between high sea sale and bond to bond transfer? Okay. Bond to bond transfer means the good have come to India, I have filed into bond bill of entry and my goods are lying in the warehouse. My goods are lying in the warehouse. There I have sold. High sea sale means let's say the goods are still in transit only, or even if they are not in transit, they've come and they are lying at the port. I am yet to do the import procedures. Rajshri, difference between bond to bond and high sea, both of them are similar in a nature that I have not yet paid customs duty or GST. Therefore, whenever I am transferring to someone, no GST applicable because that someone will pay GST. But the sheer difference is high sea sale means the goods are still in transit. Let's say on the ship is still in transit, or even if it has reached, I am yet to do my customs procedures. And the second bond to bond transfer case means I took the goods, I deposited them in warehouse, they are lying in the warehouse and now I am selling these warehoused goods to someone. I hope you are clear with this point. Yes, ma'am. So we say that all actionable claims are negative other than specified actionable claims. Means negative ka negative becomes positive. Negative ka other than. Negative ka other than would become positive, which means that specified actionable claims will fall under GST. Specified actionable claims will be considered as supply under GST. GST will be applicable on lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, everything. Other than that, if at all there is any actionable claim, not be liable under GST, not supply only basically. Then N means one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory. One entity to another entity without goods entering into India. Let's say this is India, this is USA and this is China. So we have Mr. Bablu. Mr. Bablu who arranged an entire transaction between Mr. Chi of China and Mr. John of USA. So what happened was the goods moved directly from China to USA. The goods never entered India, even though the transaction was facilitated by an Indian person, but still goods never entered India. From one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory. Of course, India is a taxable territory, so all the other countries other than India become non-taxable territory. So from any other country to any other country, goods are moving. Even though the transaction is arranged by an Indian person has some involvement in it or does not have any involvement in it. A good simply moving from one country to another country without entering India, GST cannot be applicable because GST can only be applicable in territory of India. So we simply say that if the goods are moving from one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory without entering into India, it will be considered as a negative list and no GST will be applicable. Then G means government. If I am holding any government post, if I am holding any constitutional post, let's say I am member of parliament, member of state legislature, member of panchayat, member of municipal bodies, or let's say I am a director in a government company, which simply means, of course, I am taking some consideration to be a member of parliament. I am providing services to government, to parliament, to nation. It is a service, there is a consideration, but still GST will not be applicable. GST will not be applicable if you are an MP, MLA, member of panchayat or member of local body, or you are a director officer in government company, any body set up by government, you are a constitution post holder, anything like this. Whatever remuneration you are charging from government, GST will not be applicable. E means employer-employee relationship. E means employer-employee relationship. Of course, if I have an employee today, that employee is working on my behalf, that employee is providing me services and I am paying him salary, which means it is a service, essentially it is a service contract. But still, have you ever seen GST being applicable on salary? No. GST is never applicable on salary, and not just salary. Salary, any monetary benefits, any facilities, bonus, perquisites, whatever. Whatever is a part of your CTC. What is CTC, ma'am? Whenever you join a company, whenever you join into any employment contract, they give you a cost to company, which includes not just your salary, but also any of your perks, perquisites, monetary benefits, bonuses, facilities, whatever the company gives you. Everything is a part of CTC. So whatever employer is giving to you for your services as a part of CTC will not be treated as supply, means GST will never be applicable on your salary, bonus, benefits, perquisites or monetary benefits. Say yes or no. Yes, ma'am. And last is S, which is sale of land and building, subject to Schedule 2. Why subject to Schedule 2? Because if before CCFO, it will be treated as supply of service. If after CCFO, then sale of land building falls under negative list and no GST will be applicable. So here we complete entire section 7.2a, negative list, Schedule 3 under GST. We will revise it from notes once, understand, let's see if we've missed on any point, we'll cover it and then move forward. So section 7.2 supply excludes. 7.2a negative list Schedule 3 FB changes for you to remember the mnemonic. F means services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium including transportation of deceased. B means bond to bond transfer, meaning supply of warehoused goods to any person before clearance for home consumption from the warehouse itself. C means services of any court or tribunal established under any law for the time being on force. Tribunal means NCLT, CESTAT, GST tribunal, all of these judicial tribunals treated at par with court only. Yes, this one point. Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. Have you all heard about Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission? Yes, ma'am. If any supplier is doing any kind of a cheating with you, then as a customer, you can go to Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. There used to come these ads, Jago Grahak, Jago ads, etc. If you happen to see Tarak Mehta, then there was this particular episode when entire Mahila Mandal gang was cheated by a sari vendor. And then they went to Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. They also did a Garba Andolan, Teri Band Ho Dukan, Beiman Dhongiya. If you remember, if no, you can simply ignore. So whenever you go to Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission to file any complaint or anything, if they are charging any kind of fees from you, it will also be treated as if it is a tribunal only and no GST will be charged on that also. So any amount or fees charged by a Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission will not be leviable to GST, as it is also treated to be deemed as a tribunal only. High sea sale means supply of goods by consignee to any other person after goods have been dispatched from the port of origin located outside India but before clearance for home consumption. Is the language matching what we studied? Yes, ma'am. Actionable claims other than specified actionable claim. Lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, online money gaming and casino are supply. Other than that, any other actionable claim is not a supply. Then one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory without goods entering into India. Then members of parliament, legislature, municipality, local authority, constitution post holder, chairperson, member, director in government, whatever it is. Not employee. Why not employee? Because employer-employee point we have separate. If you are a government employee, anyways no GST. Why? Because every employer-employee is covered here only. Other than employer-employee, if you are providing any service to government body as a government holder, constitution holder, as a government post holder, then also no GST applicable. Then services by employee to employer in course furtherance of employment includes premature termination compensation, not just salary. Even if let's say you are hiring workers for casual workers for daily wages, etc., then also it falls under no supply only. So wages to casual workers, etc., everything is also not a supply. Now this point does not include services provided outside ambit of employment principal to principal basis. Understand this. Let's say I have an employee for my accounting purpose. I have hired him for my accounting purpose. Whatever salary I give him is for accounting purpose only. Later I got to know he also had some idea about plumbing. Now there was this urgent need, my tap was leaking, so I told him that will you please fix it as a plumber. He said okay, and he charged let's say 800 rupees from me. Means here he fixed a tap for me not as my employee but as a plumber. So we both acted on principal to principal basis where I availed plumbing services and I gave him a separate consideration other than his salary, not a part of his salary, not a part of CTC. In that case, that will be a separate supply liable to GST. So we say services by employee to employer normally, including casual wages, premature termination compensation, everything is outside the scope of supply only. But if my employee is providing me any service independently than his employment contract on a principal to principal basis, then that will be considered as a separate supply. And S simply means sale of land and building subject to schedule 2. Say yes or no. We'll just check once how much we are able to remember using the technique of FB changes. Chalo, what are we studying? We are studying S for 7, S for supply, section 7, scope of supply. 7.1 supply includes, 7.2 supply excludes. So 7.2a, supply excludes schedule 3 negative list FB changes. FB changes. Services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium including transportation of deceased. Chalo, write along with me everyone. Write along with me. Recorded mode students will scribble. Live one, give me answers in the chat section. F for services of funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium including transportation of deceased. Just one word you can write. B means bond to bond transfer. C means services of court or tribunal. H is high seas sale. A is actionable claim other than specified actionable claim. One non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory without goods entering into India. G is government, E is employer, employee, and S is sale of land and building. Bolo re bolo, dil dil, agag pom pom. Are you able to remember everything with me right here, right now? Section 7.2a, Schedule 3, negative list, FB changes. Bolo na. Yes, ma'am. Done, everyone. 7.2a. Got it, ma'am. Then there's one more small part to section 7.2, which is section 7.2b. Section 7.2b again had power that if government thinks fit on recommendation of council, it can notify certain other transactions also, which will neither be supply of goods nor supply of services. Just a second. Is the stream visible? What happened? Is the stream visible? What happened? Why no reply in the chat section? हेलो, क्या हुआ? What happened? Is the problem there with internet or what? क्या हुआ? तुम लोग आंसर्स नहीं दे रहे? यहाँ पे चैट सेक्शन में कुछ लिखना तो, हाय हेलो। मेरे को क्यों ऐसा लग रहा है अटक गया? It's buffering on my end. Is it working? I cannot see chat. Okay. The chat on my end is not working. 1 second. What happened? Just a second. Okay, now I am able to see your chats. It got stuck at my end. Okay, done. Working now. It got stuck at my end. I was not able to see any of your chats. Chalo. So now, moving on to last part, section 7.2b. So section 7.2a was negative list and section 7.2b said that government has power. Government has power that if government deems fit on the recommendation of council, they can notify some more services undertaken by government, which you will neither consider as supply of goods nor supply of service. And till now, government has notified two activities. One is grant of state liquor license. See, today if you want to set up a liquor shop, you want to set up a wine shop, can you do so without government permission? No. You need to obtain a license from government. Only the person having license can set up a business of a liquor or a wine shop. So to obtain this license, you have to pay some kind of a consideration to government. Yes, ma'am. This is outside the purview of GST. Why, ma'am? Some other taxes might be applicable, but GST is not applicable. So we are simply saying that if state government, and you need to obtain this permission from state government only. So if state government is granting you alcoholic liquor license, whatever license fees you are paying for alcohol, GST will not be applicable because we are not considering it as supply of goods nor supply of service. Okay, ma'am. And then there are some activities in Article 243G and Article 243W of the Constitution. Ma'am, what are these activities? Article 243G and W. There are some activities like, let's say, repairing of street lights, some normal activities that government carry out as a panchayat or as municipalities. In that case, whatever activities government is doing, because they are mentioned in Article 243G or W of the Constitution, they will also not be treated as supply of goods, not supply of service, and therefore no GST applicable. Ma'am, how will we understand in exam that it is an activity specified under 243G or W? No need to worry. ICAI will give you in the question if it belongs to 243G or W list. You are not expected to learn 243G W list. You are only expected to know that whatever is there in Article 243G or W and government is doing those activities, it will not be treated as supply of goods nor supply of services. And also grant of state liquor license for alcohol. These two activities have been notified separately under section 7.2b that if these activities particularly done by government will neither be treated as supply of goods nor supply of services. Say yes or no. And here we complete entire section 7 with all the subsections and schedules attached with it. Section 7.1 supply includes. Section 7.2 supply excludes. Section 7.3, government has power to notify something as goods not service or service not goods. And section 7.1a, which simply says that what is goods and what is services. Under section 7.1, we read 7.1a, 7.1b, double A and C. 7.1a was for consideration all forms of supply, sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease made agreed to be made by a person in course furtherance of business. 7.2b, import of service. 7.2 double A, person other than individual doing transaction with own member, own constituent. And 7.1c, we read schedule 1, which was particularly supply without consideration for paras. Para 1, permanent transfer, business asset, ITC availed. Para 2, related person, distinct person in course furtherance of business. Para 3, principal and agent supply of goods. And para 4, import of service from related person, own establishment plus in course furtherance of business. Then excludes part we saw 7.2a. 7.2a was schedule 3, negative list, funeral, mortuary, burial, crematorium including transportation of deceased, bond to bond transfer, court, high sea sale, actionable claim, one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory, government, employer, employee and sale of land and building. And 7.2b, two other activities notified, 243 GW and state liquor license, particularly done by government, neither goods nor service. Then 7.3, simply government has power to notify something as goods not service, as goods not service or service not goods. And 7.1a, we read about schedule 2, which explains us what is goods and what is services. Done, and here we complete entire section 7, supply under GST. Tell me, is it dil dil agag bomb bomb? Done. We've just finished first section of our syllabus along with subsection and clauses. Are you able to remember things with me? The 3 promises that I've made you, that you will understand, you will enjoy and you will remember along with me. You will understand, enjoy and remember. क्या हम समझ गए, हमको मजा आ गया और हमें याद हो गया? Done, ma'am. So we keep the session till here. Tomorrow we will complete entire supply chapter. Since we have already completed the entire bare provision of the act. Now what we will study is clarifications and circulars related to it. Majority of them I have already covered while explaining to you. Let us see. Do we know what is course furtherance of business? Yes, ma'am. Whatever points I am making you mark, you will read in homework. Of course, we will discuss tomorrow, but yes, this is your homework for today, that you will read and tell me tomorrow that yes, ma'am, these all things even without doing we already knew. Point number 3, course furtherance of business. Point number 4, employer-employee. Then point number 9, point number 12, point number 15, point number 17. These points, repeating again, 17, 15, 12, 9, in fact 7 also you can try, 4, 3, 2. These clarifications you will just read once in homework. Repeating again, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12. 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17. 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17. You will read these points in homework and tell me tomorrow that yes, ma'am, we understood everything. Recorded mode students will even try to read these things and then only start with the next lecture. See you all tomorrow, same time, same place. I hope you enjoyed the classes. Take care and bye-bye everyone.